Thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. We have David Piatek here, who is going to help shed a light on some additional benefits out there for you that you're probably not quite aware of. Everybody knows about VA disability compensation. Everybody knows about VA home loan and education benefits, but there is more, believe me. And David has tracked some down and wants to share them with us. So with that, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. David's information on his channel and his direct information will be in this description as well as in the comments. Please go to his site and go ahead and subscribe to his channel, VA Housing Education. It's better to have the information and not need it than need it and not have it. At the end of the day, information's free. Take advantage. David, thanks for making it, brother. I really do appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on again. So what I want to share with you guys, and I came across this just a little bit ago, is the Veterans Benefits Banking Program. So a lot of great resources. And, you know, from our end, Jason, we're always talking about resources for veterans to put themselves in a better financial position. If you could do anything in life, budgeting and having good credit opens the door to opportunities. Income is not a factor for credit score. I talk with people that make, 30,000 a year. Some people make $500,000 a year, and in between all of that. And I'll tell you, the spending habits is what makes the big difference. So it's just another resource you guys could tack into. So in this program, what they're going to be talking about is going to be, there's various, you can open checking savings accounts that don't charge you a monthly fee. And Jason, that can get pretty expensive. Sometimes it's $20. Well, guess what? $20 is a tank. It could be half a tank of gas or getting some groceries. So you can, and on top of that, if you have VA disability compensation, you can get direct deposit. Now that's obviously, I'd rather have my money sooner than later. Right. That's a good, that's an easy one. But they also have different resources like financial counseling. They have Vet Sense. So let me click on some of these so we can actually see what they're about. Actually, you know what? It takes me to like a whole nother window to do it, to be able to see that. But they have other resources like free financial counseling options. So you can actually sign up for this and be a part of it. They have savings programs as well, like with Vet Sense. I'm clicking on it and seeing that. So yeah, so just a lot of solid resources for you guys to be able to go through, save money, budget, set up a time to talk with somebody. And I also provide a lot of information on my channel as well around understanding financial literacy. And a lot of our stuff is really geared towards putting yourself in a good financial position to one day be a homeowner. But even if you're renting, Jason, like they still look at credit. They still look at your income. Unless you're living in your mama's basement.
Yep.
You're charging you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you bring up a good point here on, doesn't matter if you're making $500,000 a year or if you're making $40,000 a year, credit is blind to income. And so that's an important note. And the other thing is you're talking about this resource here from the VA, specifically toward financial awareness and some banking opportunities. On the financial awareness piece and having those types of conversations, I would say the majority of people in general, not just veterans, but veterans might even be even more apprehensive to have a conversation with somebody about what I have coming into my bank account, what I have going out, and sharing all of this stuff. It's sometimes I think that it's either fear of maybe giving too much information and being a victim, right? So you don't want to get into that type of a situation. So this is a known commodity, so that's good in that aspect. I think the other piece is sometimes, and I just want to get your thoughts on this. Sometimes I think that we just don't want to rip off the bandage to look at the wound. You know what I mean? Like
the ostrich effect.
Yeah, it's just, I'd rather just kind of keep going on and, everything's fine. But meanwhile, you're hemorrhaging, right?
Yes.
So shine a little light on how painless it would be to have a conversation and what sort of things might be, I don't know, what you might be enlightened about, and what sort of tools you might be given. I know this is your world, and you have a lot of knowledge in this stuff. So I think you sharing it would be a great thing for folks.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's a couple step process, right? I think the first step is denial, right? You gotta it's and then I was mentioning the ostrich effect. Like, hey, if you've gone out and you just kind of bury your head in the sand and you don't want to look at your accounts or your credit card statements, all of a sudden they come up and it causes a problem. And and from a long term perspective too, it can just cause a lot of financial stress, like can't sleep at night. It might
Mm-hmm.
affect other parts of your VA disability as well. So the it is really painless because you're gonna just have a conversation with somebody, but you got to be ready for it, right? You have to be open to talk about your finances. You know, budgeting, Jason, is, I would say it's pretty straightforward. You got to calculate how much you bring in and you subtract out your fixed expenses, right? If you got a car payment, that's fixed. Then you have variable expenses like your electric, gas, groceries, but you normally have a budget that you want to stay within. And if your net, if you take home is 4,000, but you spend 4,500, that's not good, right? That's what the well, that's not like being a smart pants here, but the reality is that happens because one, sometimes you have an emergency and you don't have emergency funds, and now you go negative. Then it becomes hard to catch up over time, right? Sometimes people are like, oh, I'll pay that later. I'll catch up when I make more money. That's not how it works, because your budget, is going to affect your credit, because now you have to start taking credit out. You start taking credit out. Now you're affecting your budget because now you have these extra payments you have to make every month. And then there comes a hurdle where now you've maxed out your credit cards and now your credit score has dropped a lot. Now you can't even get a loan. So it's like that's I'm always saying is that when you don't need money, people want to give it to you, right? Because they know like you have great credit, you're not utilizing your credit. And then when you need the money, they won't give it to you because your credit score is either dropped or you've missed any payments.
Right.
But that's why the conversation is free. The resources are free. And it's just a matter of literally sitting down. I do it myself. Open up those credit card statements, not just see the bill, like open up the statements and go through, where are you spending money? Is it like subscriptions that you never use? Well, guess what? Cancel those. Are you buying things that you don't need? Right? There's a difference between wants and needs, right? Like you need food, but you don't need a 20-ounce porter with a 12-ounce lobster tail with some au gratin. Okay.
Mm.
I love that too. Jason, I'm sure you would love to
Mm.
eat that too.
Oh, that sounds
But
great.
it does sound good. But a lot of people will also spend money on going out all the time instead of
Right.
cooking at home,
Yeah.
and finding the right grocery store. So there's a lot that goes to it. It's not just as simple as I make it sound simple, like budgeting. Just like this, we're gonna do it. You have
Right.
things like if you have kids, you have sports, you have activities, you have different things that you've committed to. But if you don't look at it, you could take a situation you can easily fix today. It's like home maintenance. Like if the furnace is starting to make noise, you're like, we'll just kick it. And every time I kick it, somehow it stops rattling. It's all good. 2 years later, you have to replace the entire furnace instead of just having someone come out, spend a couple
Right.
$100 instead of a couple thousand. It's the same concept here,
Right.
because you could pivot early and you just need to get buy-in. You got to sell the family or
Right.
yourself on what life changes you want. And remember, Jason, it's not like the movies where in 1 hour or 1.5 hours you have like an entire life event that happens. Here it just
Right.
takes
Right.
time and it's not
Yeah.
fun, right?
Yeah.
You may not be going out a couple nights a month.
Right.
So, but
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
the sacrifices.
It's definitely the how do you eat an elephant thing, right? So
Right,
it's you can't get overwhelmed by the end, what you have to accomplish to get to the end result. Just
right.
focus on the little steps that you need to do. It's typically they're going to hand you a basic guide on what you can do to dig yourself out of that hole, and just focus on the what do I need to do today? What do I
Right.
need to do next week? What do I need to do now? Every single month I need to do this thing. And once you start on that, we'll call it a hamster wheel, right?
Yep.
Once you get on that, it just becomes kind of robotic. You just do it, and next thing you know, you look back and you go, "Holy cow! I just paid off all this stuff." And I know that it's easy to say it, right? It's probably going to be one of the hardest things that you need to do because or that you're going to do because it's change, and change always sucks, right? So you
Yep.
got to change habits. Changing habits sucks. But at the end of the day, it's going to put you and your family in a better position. The thing that I'm going to say here, David, is let's focus real quick on a. I'm a big fan of swimming upstream, right? Get as early as we can with folks, right? So
Yep.
for our people who are just now in the military, right? You just left home. You're out there in the world, you see the shiny car, you see this, you see that, you're getting the most money you've ever made in your life from them, which is going to be the lowest money you've ever made in your life. But whatever, in this moment, it's the most you've ever made because you
Right.
left your basement and here you are. So making those right decisions is really, really, really important, and keeping your credit score healthy. And this is different, right? I mean, like, look, people listen to and watch Dave Ramsey, and he's got a lot of great things to say. But sometimes it's like, well, that just sounds like almost not attainable, right? Like, who cares about your credit? You don't even need credit. Sure. Okay. Well, now I
Yeah.
don't need credit. Well, now I don't have credit. And now I can't even buy a damn house. And now I'm trying to prove that I've made a cell phone payment for 12 months when I could have just been smart and opened up 3 secured, $300 credit cards and been responsible. I think responsible credit is probably the right approach versus a no credit
Agreed.
approach, given the circumstances that we're living in, right? Let's be in reality for a minute. We're not, unless you're Amish. If you're Amish, cool. I get it. You then don't have credit because that's just not even what you should be doing. But for most people living in today's society, I mean, they run your credit when you buy a damn cell phone if you're on some sort of a payment plan. Most
Yeah.
people can't walk in with $2,000 and buy a cell phone. So that's a whole other story. So, but they run your credit, right? To put you on their, $30 a month or whatever plan. So the idea here, David, my question in the longest way that I could get to it is for, for that person swimming upstream and talking to the you when you were 18 or the me when I was 18, when it comes to home ownership, which is probably the last thing on that person's mind, right? But you're in the military now, or even if you just got out, you're 22, 23, and you just got out. What are some of the key things that you would want somebody to have under their belt and ready to have their mind in the right spot? And what's a few things that they could have done in that year or two prior to saying, "Hey, David, I want to see what I can get approved for"?
That's a loaded question, Jason, but that was a long question.
It was very long,
That's
very
good.
long.
So I'll tell you that it's the early steps that set you up for success, and it kind of echoes what we have been talking about. One, good budgeting leads to good credit. Good credit leads to opportunities, right? And then you can start playing with risk a little. But if you're too risky, you're gonna have bad credit, and then bad credit leads back, kind of has the domino effect to that. Two, you should be also saving. I know this from experience, plus talking with a lot of people early on in your career, like you mentioned, Jason, that you come into money, you don't know what to do with it. It's like when you start college, all of a sudden, all these credit card applications start coming in. You're like, I don't even have a job. How? They're like combined family income. You're like, oh, I'm going to use my parents' income to qualify, but you're responsible for that money, right? You've seen that before. So knowing that and accepting that, I think that's the toughest part, Jason, because a lot of times, especially if you're younger, you're like, I know better than that they do. I know what
Right.
I'm doing. But this is like information that you could utilize, because the earlier you have a mind shift to say that I am not going, and I don't want to turn this to like a motivational speech, but I'm like, the
Mm.
sooner you can control how you want to spend time, how you want to spend money, the sooner you can control, or like take control of, not other people telling you what to do. And because then, and I feel like that leads into a lot of this fear of missing out. I talk to people that go on these lavish trips. And then you look at their information, they've spent $20,000 they didn't have. Now they're paying $500 a month on something that lasted a week, right? Like,
Right.
why would you do that? You want to take control of that so you can control your finances. But that's what I would say is like focus on the budgeting, focus on having good credit. And like I said, Jason, people that don't have any credit, and I've talked to a lot of people from Dave Ramsey, man,
Right.
when they get a mortgage for their VA home loan, they get charged a higher interest rate and higher fees because they're manual underwrite loans, which is the irony of the whole situation that of what they're doing. So you have to take a balanced approach to that. And
Right.
if you're on active duty, they off they offer financial classes, but they don't tell you they do. This is my
Right.
experience. Okay.
Yeah.
Like
No, totally.
they have a ton of resources, just like we did a video on the this banking resource. Then people are like, well, I didn't even know this. And I do this every day. Like I just recently found this website because I'm not seeing it promoted in the monthly emails.
Right.
Your team sergeant, your sergeant, team sergeant, and platoon leader are not going to sit there and go, hey guys, let's put up our checkbook today and let's go through how much money you spent. We don't use checkbooks for a reason anymore because they don't want you to know how much money you're spending.
No,
But I mean,
smart.
that's kind of, but that's kind of
Yeah.
where I'll put my foot
Yeah.
down on that. But yeah, the
Yeah.
earlier the
Yeah.
better. And
Yeah.
then yeah, watching videos
Yeah.
like this and other resources.
It's just amazing. Yeah, that's funny. So not to use the checkbook because then you don't know how much you're spending. It's kind of like going to the casino and playing with chips. It's not real
Right.
money, right? It's changing the slot machines to the little tickets that print out. It's not money you're putting into it anymore. You put the ticket back in. So one of the really, I think, important things that you pointed out here is the importance of a healthy budget that impacts your credit in a positive way, which then gives you a better interest rate and payments and fees when you actually do purchase a home versus the other way around, no credit or bad budget and coupled with no credit or bad credit or high balances, you still may qualify for a loan, but now you're in a different situation that could potentially cost you more in either rate or fees. So it's a very, very important aspect to pay attention to. Any last thoughts that you want to throw out to anybody? I'm going to say one thing is that, look, again, if you've hung on till the end, the password is Rooster. Type Rooster into the comments if you hung on to the end. I know it's a long one, but it'll be kind of funny to see who says Rooster. So if you're not subscribed to David's channel, VA Housing Education, do that. It doesn't cost you a nickel, and it helps to keep this type of information floating around, right? Which is what we all need because, it's funny, David, what you said about there's so many things that we're not told about that exist, but we're not told about them. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I had a break in service. Then I joined the Army National Guard. And why did I join the Army National Guard? Well, long story, but I did. And I was thinking, okay, my Montgomery GI Bill is now gone. I didn't use it. So I need some education so I can try to get, shift careers and all of that stuff. I was in mortgages through 07, 08. That tumbled everything, stuck in it for a couple more years. And I was trying to shift out of that world and into something else. And it's like, man, this is all I've done for 12 years. That's a hard switch. So I thought, let me join the Army National Guard and let me get some post 9/11 GI Bill. Well, I never deployed. So I never got that. And I didn't know about tuition assistance. For 4.5 years, I was in the National Guard. I'd signed up for 6. I got 4.5 years in. And finally, somebody came to our unit and did some sort of, briefing to everybody talking about educational benefits. And I was like, are you kidding me? I just spent 4.5 years here and I could have been using tuition assistance the whole time. How frustrating is that? So anyway, any parting last words on your side there, David?
No, I'll tell you guys that don't hesitate to reach out. If you have questions about the program or the VA home loan, or you want to just go through your finances, I'm happy to do that because it's opening up communication. The earlier, I'm telling you guys, the earlier, the better. Because I do get those phone calls of like, hey, I just bought a home. I'm 5 months in and I'm about to lose my home. And I'm like, how did that happen? And like Jason mentioned, like you let it go too long, you're gonna be you could be in a tough position. So please reach out if you guys have any questions. But Jason, thanks again, man, for having me on. Yeah, I'll be interested to see how many people put Rooster in the comment section.
Yeah, I mean, it's you had to have hung on for 18 minutes. So you either
Yeah.
played it really fast or you skipped to the end. I don't know. We'll see. So Rooster, again, in the comments, if you've hung on till the end, please, again, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. If you have a loved one who's currently serving or a loved one who doesn't own a home, shoot this video to them. It could be us talking to them, and you don't need to be the squeaky wheel anymore. You can send us, and we'll be the squeaky wheel. With that, thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate you so very much. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.